Alright, here we go with some more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And so far we encountered two characters, one whom is new and one that we know from like the previous trial with Mr. McGill did. We're back with Gina Lestrade and a new character called Egg Benedict. I don't know how they do this, but you know what? The names work. But anyways guys, we're going to continue on from there and see where it goes. So I hope you all continue to enjoy watching. And let's do this. Alright guys, and we are back. The disc happened to be in one of the pockets, but I was completely unaware of it until now. So, Gutterling, you're hiding more of what's rightfully mine, are you? Says who, huh? I don't know nothing about it. Very well. Then I shall bid you farewell. Say goodbye to your style. I thought it said say goodbye to your style. Wait a minute, that disc is mine. Oh! What do you think you're doing, you little tramp? You've drawn blood, you filthy animal! Oh my, yes, there's blood on the disc. It's because of all those sharp little bumps. The man must have scratched his finger on them. I found it first, alright? I mean, it belonged to me, old man. So you're not having it. Oi, you take it. Me? If I hang on to it, they'll have it off of me again. So you keep hold of it. Mr. Strahd, why is this disc so important to her? The music box disc has been entered into the court record. You there, in the black livery. Hand that disc to me at once, please. No, don't. He's lying. Grown-ups are all liars. What do I do now? How am I gonna resolve this? That's a good question. What the? This guy, man. Mr. Sholmes? What are you examining with such keen interest there? As you enjoy a bar of caramel, I see. So, you found me at last, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry? After that young pickpocket sent me on my way, I was forced to lurk in the shadows. Cruelly ostracized as the rest of you partook in the jovial atmosphere of fellowship. I had nothing to occupy my mind, but was too ashamed to let society see what my downfall had done to me. So, feigning mock interest, I pretended to examine the tedious trinkets in this desolate place. Whilst, as you surely observed, gnawing on the only friend I have left, this 7% solution of caramel. Pray, do you claim to understand the depths of my despair, Mr. Naruhodo? But how could you? I was so lonely. So desperately lonely. Then, why on earth didn't you rejoin the conversation? Things have gone from bad to worse here, you know. Yes, I overheard much of your conversation. Or rather, in my craving for human contact, my ears devoured every word that was uttered. You really were sad, weren't you? Poor Mr. Sholmes, I feel simply awful for you. It would seem that my inferences are correct. Oh, surely you're not about to tell us that you solved the entire case once again. My dear madam, sometimes I wonder, were my genius for deduction to be commoditized? How much could I pawn it for? It seems Mr. Sholmes has another of his flashes of inspiration, but who knows if it will help resolve the situation between Miss Lestrade and the mysterious gentleman. What's the right thing to do here? Well, I mean, I think we should listen to the deduction, of course, because why leave it? Miss Lestrade, it would appear you find yourself in something of a predicament. Where the blue blazes have you been, huh? Pardon? When a lady's in trouble, a true gent's supposed to be there to help. Straight away, not an hour later. Harsh. And who, pray tell, are you? Mr. Egert Benedict, you have, in my eyes, a veritably encyclopedic array of curiosities about your person. Nevertheless, there are two immovable conclusions I have drawn. I beg your pardon. The first is this. The true reason for your visit to this pawnbrokery today is something you have not yet revealed. And the second is this. A considerable crime is in contemplation, one you will orchestrate with intent to steal a vast sum of money. Well, Mr. Benedict, what say you to my deductions? How? He's turned as wise as a hard-boiled egg. Like his name. It would seem that once again Mr. Sholmes has made a flawless deduction. Just who do you think you are, sir? Ah, yes, as I hoped. That is precisely the pained expression I was looking for. So, shall we begin? Uh-oh. The time has come for yet another Herlock Sholmes Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. The great deduction and the game is afoot. Mystery Man's aim. First of all, we must ask ourselves on what business ventured to this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have followed this pickpocket here, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different. As revealed by which you hold in your hand. Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the staff recruitment flyer. The piece of paper in your hand is a staff wanted advertisement from this very shop. Yet even the most unobservant would soon realize that a man of your appearance has no need of such import. In other words, there is some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane which you unwittingly clutched to your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What utter rot! I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. The end of any walking cane would be terminated with a metal ferrule to protect the wooden tip. And yet, detailed analysis shows the wooden tip of this stick is to be utterly bare. Therefore, there is only one conclusion. The rod that you hold in your hand, which appears to be a walking cane, is in fact no cane at all. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong? And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer of the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle, which you evidently would like to conceal, is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. From the moment I saw it, my suspicions were aroused. What walking cane demands such a stout handle, mused I. But of course, as I said, this is no walking cane. No, that rod. Is the broken handle of a shovel. What? Are you insane? And now, having determined the undeniable truth, the conclusion is clear. Your true motive for coming here was to take employment at this establishment in order to excavate the ground beneath the premises. What a calculated crime you have conceived, sir. A wickedly calculated crime. To tunnel underneath the pawnbrokery. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You suggest that I, a gentleman, intend to excavate the ground beneath this pawnbrokery with a broken shovel? What on earth do you propose I could expect to find there? Some long-forgotten treasure, I suppose? I don't know what the point of that whole dramatic gesture was, but okay. Save for such a fanciful theory, what possible reason could I have to do as you say? Oh, but there is ample reason. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict, And your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. What? Let's consider what would motivate a man to infiltrate a shop such as this and covertly dig beneath its floor. The answer is revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. This letter gives notice of public works to be carried out in the local area. And according to the enclosed plan of the upcoming sewerage works, beneath this shop runs a sewer that adjoins another, one that runs under the bank on the opposite side of the road. This madness has entered the sewers now, has it? By excavating the ground beneath our feet, you would gain access to the waterway. That flows in very close proximity to the great vault of the financial institution opposite. What are you... In summary, sir, you devised a master plan to pull off an elaborate bank robbery by dint of the underground tunnels. Master plan? Which brings us at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. You know, I keep thinking I see one word and it's something else. With what plunder did the thief hope to make off from the underground vault of the bank? Are you quite serious? Having consulted with Scotland Yard some days ago, I happen to know the answer. But naturally, the answer is no secret to you, is it, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. You see, the picture postcard tells us all we need to know. A postcard of the Great Exhibition. I'm afraid you've quite lost me. Currently, in the final stages of preparation, the Great Exhibition will soon be underway, and the government has provided extra funds to complete its centerpiece, the Crystal Tower. Funds that currently sit in the vault of the bank on the other side of this road. Pardon? Yes, the considerable crime you've been contemplating is the theft of that which sits in the vault of that bank, the special reserve funds for the Great Exhibition. Of course, that is top secret police information, so keep it under your hat, please. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of this pawnbroking puzzle. Mr. Sholmes? Well, Mr. Naruhodo, an impressively upbeat deduction for a detective racked with loneliness, would you not agree? Was it true what you said about the bank over the road and what it has in its vault? Indeed, though few know of its existence, it is one of the government's most closely guarded secrets. Gregson told me in the strictest confidence. But you just announced it to everyone here rather loudly, in fact. Ah, and if it's such a big secret, how would Mr. Benedict have come to find out about it? There can be but one explanation for that. Clearly, it is because the man is a criminal. But what if he didn't know anything about the money in the vault? If he is a criminal, as you said, then buying a brand new shovel is sure to be the first thing he does now that you've revealed the secret. Oh. Or, if he doesn't, maybe Mr. Winterbank will. He already has plenty of shovels here after all. Oh, my life, I assure you, I am not unscrupulous. Well, hopefully this has taught you a valuable lesson. Sensitive information must be handled with the utmost of care. One can never be sure that someone privy to secrets won't disclose them, and once the word is out, it's out. Perhaps I'll think twice before confiding in you next time, Mr. Sholmes. An excellent idea, Mr. Naruhodo. An excellent idea. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, you know what to do, I'm sure. Yes, let's listen to the great deduction again and see if we can massage it into shape. Massage it. Very well then, let us start once more from the beginning. Of wow, like guys, I was just finishing yawning. Of Herlock Sholmes' magnificent logic and reasoning spectacular. we go. Course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. First of all, we must ask ourselves in what business you ventured to this pawnbrokery today. You claim to have filed this pickpocket here, having had the redemption ticket stolen from you on the street. But that is most certainly a lie. The real truth is something quite different, as revealed by that which you hold in your hand. Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the staff recruitment flyer. So, by Mr. Sholmes' reasoning, Mr. Benedict came here in order to apply for a job so he could dig down through the floor. Yes, in an attempt to tunnel into the sewers to gain access to the money in the vault of the bank across the road. But he wouldn't get very far with a broken shovel, would he? No. I think it's fair to say his motives lie elsewhere. The question is, where? What did bring Mr. Benedict here at this particular point in time? Okay, so we're supposed to... Can we... Oh, yep, we can again. Here we go. Good. I need to move around. Oh, whoa. Can I check this out? There's writing behind it. Oh, look at all the scribbled notes on the back of the flyer here. I don't believe it. What is it? Listen to what it says. Name, Gina Lestrade. Height, 5'2". Green cap, scruffy waistcoat, grubby white shirt, blue satchel, ragged. It's a detailed description of Miss Lestrade. Goodness. There's even a sketch of her, hat and all. Although, if you showed it to her, she'd fire that smoke grenade launcher in his face for sure. And look, the details of the shop have been written down here too. Winterback's Pawnbrokery, Baker Street, redemption deadline 15th of April. Which is today's date. Why would Mr. Benedict have all that information scrawled on the back of that piece of paper? Info about Miss Lestrade. Trying to check what else I can see here. You know, I completely forgot I could present this. I'm curious. Let's go.
Take that!
Yes, what brought you to this shop in the first place is the info about Miss Lestrade. Quite so, my dear fellow. It would appear that the writing and sketch in the reverse of the flyer pertain to the pickpocket Miss Lestrade and to Mr. Winterback's pawnbrokery here. Ah. You originally told us that you had merely given chase after Miss Lestrade stole the redemption ticket from you. But that, sir, is a thinly veiled lie. It is the information on the back of the flyer that led you here today, by which I mean here to win the bank's pawnbrokery, and today the redemption deadline of that overcoat. So you waited outside for the young girl matching the description you have written down to arrive. And you have gone to some lengths to hide the reason for your pursuit of Miss Lestrade. In other words, there was some ulterior motive for your actions. The cane which you unwillingly clutched to your person exhibits an incontrovertible contradiction. What utter rot! I've had this cane for years. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. What's a ferrule? It's the metal cap commonly found on the end of a cane, Mr. Metalholder. Ah, that bit that makes the nice clacking sound on the pavement? Yes, exactly, and Mr. Sholmes is right. It appears to be missing on this cane. But it doesn't actually look broken, does it? No, it doesn't. Though the gentleman certainly did recoil when Mr. Sholmes identified the cane as suspicious. In other words, there's some secret about the cane that Mr. Benedict would rather we don't know. The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the missing ferrule. Alright? So I guess we check out the The initialing. The initialing. Look here, Mr. Sato. There are some letters on the handle. Ah, yes, those must be initials, I think. In the West, it's customary for people to engrave their belongings with the first letters of their names. So Herlock Sholmes would be HS, you mean? That's right. And the initials on this cane, obviously. Oh, a G. Why does it feel as though that's not quite right? Yeah, that is kind of off-putting right now, considering that's not his name, or his initials at all.
Take that!
The contradiction of which I speak is, of course, the initialing. A most astute observation, wouldn't you say, Mr. Edgar Benedict? We are led to believe, sir, that your initials are EB. Yet, in the most possessive manner, you have in your grasp a cane bearing the initials AG. An incontrovertible contradiction indeed, would you not agree? No, you're wrong. This cane isn't. You said before that you'd had that cane for years. Gah. So don't try to tell us that you just borrowed it from a friend or found it in the park. In short, though you hold yourself to be a gentleman, you have withheld your true name. You recoil, sir. Is something wrong? Well, And in your recoiling, you inadvertently facilitate the answer of the next conundrum to present itself. Namely, what is the truth behind this rod you bear? Yes, your reaction betrays the truth. The handle which you evidently would like to conceal is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. Let's consider the bare bones of what's happened here. Mr. Lestrade redeemed that fine-looking overcoat, and now a mysterious man has appeared introducing himself with a fake name, and claiming that the overcoat belongs to him. But we know that he actually identified Mr. Lestrade from a written description, which suggests that everything else he's told us is untrue. So what we need to do here is somehow prove that the overcoat cannot possibly belong to him. Okay. Alright, let me see what else we're supposed to look at here. They were talking about his overcoat last time. Whoa, what? It's got a cut here. Split seam. Oh, the seam on the shoulder there is coming apart, look. So it is. Do you know, a moment ago when Mr. Benedict was surprised by something that was said, I thought I heard him make a rather strange noise. It sounded a bit like a tiny growl. But now I think it was probably the sound of the seam ripping open. If you look closely, it does seem to be a very tight fit. The sleeves are stretching to bursting, and he wouldn't have a hope of fastening it in the front. If he were to run around in it, I'm sure the whole thing would fall apart. That I'd like to see. Sorry? So how can we make Mr. Benedict run around? She's really giving this some thought. Uh-huh.
Take that!
The split seam which you evidently would like to conceal is the key to understanding this riddle, you see. Yes, because the overcoat is rather obviously a poor fit. Having forced it over your broad shoulders, the seam is already breaking apart. My suspicions were aroused from the outset. When you so badly lied about your name and so boldly waylaid this pickpocket. This catalog of untruths has been for one very specific purpose. To steal the article that the young girl redeemed from Mr. Windibank. But what really irks me is this. The considerable crime I initially imagined has been considerably curtailed. Now, Mr. Benedict, let us continue. For we must expose the details of this elaborate crime you have in the planning. This is utterly absurd. You've been saying that a lot, man. You suggest that I, a gentleman, designed a wheeze to filch some tawdry article of ponage? Have you forgotten that I redeemed the article in the proper manner using the watchword? Had I not been the one to deposit it in the first place, how could I possibly have known the irrelevant details? Oh, but the watchword can be discovered. As you are only too well aware, Mr. Benedict. And your furtive glance is more telling than I could have hoped. Let's consider how one might come to learn a secret watchword relating to the pawned property of another. The method is revealed by the council notice on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently. And I missed out. The direction of the deduction must change rather dramatically now, I think. Yes, no more talk of tunneling into the sewers. Which is a pity because it all sounded rather exciting. Anyway. As you can't deny that this mysterious gentleman did know the watchword. Yes, Professor. If you didn't know that word, Mr. Windenbank would never allow you to redeem this article. Or, looking at it another way, if you did know that word, Mr. Windenbank would allow you to redeem the article whether it was yours or not. So the question is, could this gentleman have found the watchword out somehow? Okay, Notelet. What's this? Look at this, Mr. Sato. Ah, it appears to be a memo that Mr. Windenbank has scribbled to himself. Let's see, what does it say? Oh, Professor. Mr. Windenbank must make a note of the watchwords his customers give him right before their eyes. And in an alarmingly clear script as well. Oh dear, I don't know where to look. Who knows what other secrets I might see? Interesting.
Take that!
The method is revealed by the notelet on the counter to which your eyes were inadvertently drawn. Yes, the broker here follows the same procedure whenever a customer comes to redeem an article. He asks the customer for the watchword and notes down the response uttered on the notelet he has to hand. Then he consults his ledger and confirms whether or not the watchword matches that of the article in question. I would expect nothing less of a diligent pawnbroker. But his diligence clearly has its disadvantages. What are you talking about? It is increasingly apparent that you were present in this shop before your accusation against Mrs. Stride. In all likelihood, you followed her inside and then observed her talking to Mr. Windenbank. When the diligent broker made a note of the watchword, as is his common practice, you observed him writing the word professor on the notelet beside the ledger. And that, sir, was the master plan you devised to steal the pawned article from the young Miss Lestrade. Master plan? Which brings us at last to the final chapter of this lurid scheme. Why would you go to such lengths to redeem that particular article from this pawnbroker? Are you quite serious? For an ill-fitting overcoat hardly seems to justify the effort, much less a worthless music box disc. But naturally, you had very good reason to make them yours, didn't you, Mr. Benedict? I have no idea what you're talking about. Allow me to present a rather interesting piece of evidence. Oh, I missed out on that. articles we're talking about are the overcoat and the music box disc. That was in one of the pockets, which according to Mr. Windenbank isn't even worth a penny. And yet this man went to such lengths to steal them. Why? I wonder if perhaps we certainly have the evidence we need to explain it, Mr. Naruhodo. Could we? Really? I'd better have a thorough look through all the evidence we've collected so far. Alright, let's give this a once over. What the? Let me see what this says. For McGilded? What? Oh, there's a little scrap of paper stuck onto the reverse side of this disc too. And a scribbled word or two. It looks like somebody's name. For McGilded. McGilded? It couldn't be. But it is Mr. Naruhodo. A name I shall never forget for as long as I live. But why? Why is his name on this? Uh-oh. Alright then. We're gonna present it.
Take that!
You see, the music box disc tells us all we need to know. What's that on the back? It reads for McGilded. Ah, Mr. Magnus McGilded, the unfortunate philanthropist who perished in curious circumstances at the Old Bailey 2 months ago. A prominent man in London, though his loan mongering demonstrated a distinct lack of scruples. So, you're an associate of his, are you? Or perhaps a subordinate? Mr. McGilded was a man of unusually small stature, in fact. He was precisely the right size for that overcoat that you squeezed yourself into. Ugh. Your true identity remains shrouded in mystery, Mr. Edgar Benedict. But the final conclusion here is crystal clear. The reason you came to this pawnbrokery today was to retrieve an article left behind by the late Magnus McGilded. Oh ho ho ho. Alright guys, I'm going to have to end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. When we come back, we're going to continue this little thorough investigation and see where it leads. Until the next one, guys. Thank you again.